So, good afternoon. Oh, it looks like it's a show, so I may have to dance a little bit. So, welcome to the product and solution session. We'll be covering IoT, the industrial routers. And what we talk about is what are we doing, what are we launching as a product, and what are the evolution of the cellular infrastructure, because we are considering that cellular is clearly a key technology for the IoT. So I'm pretty sure you have already seen the slide, but please fill the survey. It always helps us to improve the quality of the session. So just do it. So what we are covering today, it's what kind of challenge do we see today on the market for IoT? Where do you want to use what kind of solution we can provide? And by the way, what does it mean for the routing portfolio for industrial IoT, particularly related to the cellular infrastructure? And from there, we have one case study we are showing. I'm pretty sure you have already heard the keynote speaker about NL, who is a utility, and we'll show you what they are doing. So let's take a look at the way we look at IoT for Cisco. You need to split the consumer market from the industrial market. And clearly, we're only focusing on the industrial market. So we look at all the vertical, like manufacturing and utility. We look at different use cases, like fixed use case, mobile use case, like the vehicle and the fleet. And that means for us that we have different kind of product. The same when we say industrial IoT, it means we need to ruggedize the product. Ruggedization means high temperature, -40, +85, no moving part, fanless, and by the way, security. Because most of the time we deploy product in a location when there is no technician, no worker over there, and we make sure that the box cannot be compromised. So that's clearly what we look at, what we mean. And from there, it's a little bit different from the rest of Cisco. What we are doing is we do, as part of the IoT business unit, we do what the rest of Cisco is doing. We do switching, we do routing, we do wireless, and we can bring all of them together, making sure that we can cover whatever the use case in your solution, and we need to transport IP. So clearly, we can use different technology, and what we call multi-access wireless technology, because wireless is quite important. And we want to make sure that you can design your network and bring NP on top of that. So the fact is, when you look at industry, people started a long time ago using, I would say, cable, wire. And wire means you may be using legacy serial, RS-232, RS-485, or you may be moving to Ethernet. That's quite easy because it's a single technology and you know exactly what you want to do with that. As soon as we say wireless, it's quite interesting because what does it bring for you? It brings agility, meaning you can reconfigure your network, the vehicle can be on the move, and you can connect, or you can connect people, you can connect devices which are moving. Now the fact is, you have multiple wireless technology. You have low data rate, you have high data rate, you have different technology. Not single technology will fit all the requirements. So what we'll be focusing here during the presentation is clearly cellular, because we are considering that cellular technology today is key for industrial IoT. But the fact is, remember, 3G got introduced around the year 2000. And 2G was done before that. So what we are seeing today in Europe, in most, or US as well, North America and the rest of the world, is the fact that service providers are doing the shutdown of 2G and 3G network. And they do it, take an example, Germany, you can't get any more 3G services. So what I put here on the slide, or you look at the US and the same, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, they are turning off 2G and 3G services. So what does it mean for you? What does it mean for the router? Because most of the time when I look at the industrial use case, people are deploying boxes for 10, 15, 20 years. So that's the reason whatever device we have been launching last year, all of them are modular. And the reason is we want to keep the same box for 10 years, but we want to be able to follow the evolution of the cellular network. And that's the reason all the modems are becoming modular. And the fact is, I put some country here, it's a non-exhaustive list, but be aware that 3G may be shutting down before 2G, most of the case, and the main reason is people are still using 2G as M2M for machine-to-machine communication, but it's going away. So you have to be ready for that, and we know that we have customers with still using 10,000 of analog line or 2G services. So how long does it take for you to make sure that you are replacing the modem? And what does it mean? What we see as well in Europe, we see new, or even in the US, we see new type of network for cellular being deployed only for the industry. You look at Netherlands here, there is a 450 megahertz network dedicated to utilities. We see the same occurring in Germany, the same occurring in the Scandinavian countries. So that's quite important. We see the network being dedicated for power utility, for public safety, for government, and the same, that means a need for new interface with new radio technology as well. The one we see, if I do compare between US and Europe, in the US you have a network run by AT&T called FirstNet, where using the 700 megahertz band. Here in Europe, we have seen people starting to deploy on the 450 megahertz band. Why? Because it provides very long distance, good coverage, but low data rate as well. So that means what we see in most countries, we see one provider that will deploy the network, so packet core, radio network, but you need the device as well. So that's the reason. If you look at LTE 450, it's a little bit different from what you are used to, because your mobile phone, your device, can't connect to LTE 450. You need a very specific modem for that. And from there, you can start looking at critical application to run on top of it. So that's the reason on our product, we are launching a new LTE PIM, allowing us to connect routing to the LTE 450. So what you can do, you can say, okay, I'm connecting my router to the dedicated network. At the same time, I can still attach to a public service provider for whatever you need. Now, the fact is, when I look at your solution, the fact is you may have multiple network, multiple operator. How do you manage everything? And that's really what we try to do with the router. So let's take a look at what we're offering. We have ruggedized product, all running iOS XE, where you will find all the feature you can find on the enterprise, the enterprise product you are used to. But at the same time, we do the ruggedization, and we're also getting certification for very specific vertical market, like utility, you need to be compliant with IEC 61850. You go for transportation, we need to comply with the transportation market. On transportation, you may be looking at M12 connector for railways. Or if you go for critical, or let's say you need, for example, not necessarily in Europe, but in the US, we have people putting router on a rooftop, on a pole in the middle of nowhere. So that means IP67, minus 40 to plus 85. So we need to look at what are the use cases and what are the characteristics of the network you are looking for. The fact is, with the digitalization of the enterprise, we see IT and OT working all together. So that means here, we need to look at what is done at the enterprise network, on the enterprise network in terms of security and feature. At the same time, we have to make sure that we take that as a foundation and we add on top of it what is needed by the industry. So that's what we mean by the unified solution for IT and OT, for industrial networking. So now, what a key point is, when I look at the deployment for industrial routers, we are looking at large scale. By large scale, I mean it could be few hundred units, it can be 1,000, it can be 10,000 units. Now, if you start saying, I go and will deploy 20,000 units over 3 years, how do you do that? And I'm not expecting that you will send a CCIE on each site in the middle of a rural area just to do the configuration and the installation. So this is where you need a centralized platform to do management. And when we say centralized platform, we mean it can be cloud-based or it can be on-prem, dependent of who you are, what kind of industry, what are the cybersecurity requirements. And from there, if you are enterprise and you are already using platform like DNSE or vManage and SD-WAN, you want to make sure that the router can integrate on what you have already deployed for the enterprise. At the same time, if we look at the operation technology, the OT world, you may want something more simple. So this is where we may have solutions like operation dashboard, or we may have solutions like field network director, which bring you the focus on OT with capability like what we call secure equipment access. What I mean by that, it's mean when you look at your device, you may be attaching to the device some programmable logic controller, a PLC, a virtual RTU, or whatever the industry, your vertical industry needs. And these devices are running firmware. They need to report information. They need to be maintained as well. So what you may want to do, you may want to allow people to access the device in a controlled fashion. So this is clearly what we try to achieve with the operation dashboard, which we are demonstrating on the world of solution, where we do provide capability of running an agent on the platform itself. So now we can provide seamless connectivity to the people accessing the device attached to the router. So that's the reason, once again, on network management, modularity is key as well. I know that people here still using CLI. We are running iOS XE. You can access the web UI. But when you scale, you need a centralized platform. And based on your requirements, centralized platform can be on-prem or cloud-based, and we are covering all of that. So if I look at the different use cases and how can you make the selection, let's take DNSE. Why using DNSE to manage industrial router? Most of the time, it's because what we call extended enterprise. Extended enterprise means today you were deploying devices on the carpeted IP for the carpeted IP use case, and now you start moving equipment outdoor. So here, most of the people, they just want to be able, using the same management platform, to do the management of the device. So that's clearly what we try to achieve with DNSE. We take what's available from the enterprise, you deploy for the OT, and from there, we use the same management platform to perform the operation. Now, we do SD-WAN as well. If you are familiar with iOS XE, you know that now we have a unified image. So when you do order your platform, you can say, I want to use it as autonomous mode, meaning iOS XE as it is, or you may want to say, I want to use it as a controller mode, meaning SD-WAN. And once again, what we have done, we have the same features we have the same feature set on the industrial router, making sure that you can take, if you decide to go for SD-WAN, you can deploy it this way as well. So what we are looking, what are the benefits of SD-WAN? For example, you may have multiple paths. All the platforms today are supporting 4G, 5G, fiber. So you can take the benefit of the SD-WAN feature set and load balance the traffic, put different kind of traffic priority through the different interfaces. It's a way to scale the deployment as well. DNSE, SD-WAN, we can do zero-touch provisioning. So remember what I say, if you are looking at deploying thousands of units, you don't want to do the configuration. So that's clearly how we can help. All the platform, remember, when we start deploying the router, they are not installed on the control room. They can be on a street cabinet. They can be on a pole top. They can be on a rooftop. So that means here, we need to make sure that the platform won't be compromised. So what does it mean for us? First, we need to look at the hardware security, making sure that we have what we call, if you look at the PC world, what people use as a TPM, so we have a chipset we call Actor 2, which means here we are storing certificate. we are storing certificate for the platform itself, but at the same time, as we do edge computing on our platform, if you are developing application, you can also store your certificate on the Act2 chipset. So we have a secure, unique device identifier, which will be used for the zero-touch provisioning. So that means we know the device, it has a single serial number, and we can, when you, do the provisioning, we authenticate the device, and we know it's going in. We do secure boot. We have input alarm, input and output alarm. So for example, you put the box in a street cabinet, you wire the door of the cabinet. If somebody tries to open it, we'll raise an alarm. And you can also put some flashing light if you want. We are following all the Cisco security guidelines as well in terms of development. So that's for the device security. But then you need to look at the network security as well, how you will secure the IP traffic, how you will look at who can access the box, what routing protocol, what IPsec, all encryption, how it's done. And by the way, we do IPsec in hardware just to keep the performance level of the box. So different you look at the security for the network, and from there, we start at the operation security. So that's where, as I say, we can put extra feature like IPS, cyber vision, where we put an agent on the platform, and we are doing deep packet inspection. We are reporting information to centralized dashboard, so we can keep all information and check what's happening. So you have firewalling. So once again, when you look at security, it's not one feature, it's your perimeter, and here for industrial, it's quite important. Example of cyber vision, the way it works, most of the time when you look at people doing deep packet inspection, they will provide a probe, so you need to install a probe on your network, and from there, it's doing deep packet inspection of the traffic, and you send that to a centralized controller where you have rules. What we are doing on the IoT product, we move the probe as a software agent running on the device. So that means we can do application hosting and switching and routing. We put the agent, so now the port here, we can do packet inspection, and we report that to centralized agent. By doing that, what does it mean? It means we can spread the packet visibility across the network. It's become easier versus installing probe in few locations. We increase visibility. When I say modular and cellular, the key question, on the booth, everybody was asking, oh, what about 5G? So once again, the title of the presentation was Sunset of 2G and 3G. On all platforms, you can put a cellular interface, which is 2G. But at the same time, we have a 5G interface as well. So that means you can go from any platform here. You start today with 2G. In 3 years from now, you need 5G. You just replace the module. You put the 5G modem. You're done. And once again, think about the industry vertical where you don't want to change your configuration every at least 10 years. And here, when we say cellular, the key question is, what kind of cellular technology? What kind of speed? Remember that cellular is an asymmetric. Most of the time when you are using public services, cellular is asymmetric. And when we say 4G, 4G is not a single technology. There are multiple generations of 4G. That's the reason you can see here, we have LT Cat 4. What does it mean? It means 100 megabit downstream, 50 megabit upstream. And then you have Cat 6, which is 300 megabit downstream, 50 megabit upstream. You have Cat 18, where we can do carrier aggregation, going up to 1.2 gig downstream. And then you have the 5G, where now we can go up to 2.5 gig downstream, 500 meg upstream. So clearly, what do you need for your application? We can deliver it. And this is a normal evolution. And as I say here, the benefit is we are sharing the module with the rest of the Cisco platform. So that means one kind of modem, dependent of the world region. We are supporting all the world region as well. You can deploy. So let's take a look at the different portfolio. What are the products we have in the portfolio? This is what I call the army knife for industrial IoT. The 1101, it's a small platform, base platform. You have 4 Ethernet port, 1 Gigi port, 1 serial, RS-232, and you have 1 slot. And here, for the Gigi port, we have SFP or we have RG45. Why do we have SFP? Because we can also put a DSL SFP as part of it. But the fact is, copper wire is sunsetting as well. Several service providers, most service providers are doing the sunset. Now, you need more serial port, more Ethernet port. We have an expansion module. You want to go for dual cellular because you want redundancy. We have another expansion module. We do edge application. You want to store data. We have people doing virtual RTU on the platform. We have 100 gigabyte disk drive SSD on the platform. You want GPIO, we have the 4-port GPIO. So once again, you do what you want. Back to the security, we can put the CyberVision agent. We can connect to Umbrella as a services. So once again, look at the platform as what is the need, and from there, let's do the configuration. From there, we have the browser for transportation. I mean, the small one, the 1101, is most of the time what you will find installed by utility, on street cabinet, on the connected road, ATM for the, that's clearly the vertical market where we deploy the platform. You go for the 1800, this is where we target transportation. So we have the same capability, but we are adding on top of that. So that means you have the dual cellular, same, you can put 2 4G, 2 5G, but now we are adding a Wi-Fi 6 AP. So with a Wi-Fi 6 AP, what can you do? You can connect it to WLC. You can use it as autonomous, it's a WLC itself, or you can use it as a work group bridge. So the typical use case for work group bridge is, let's say, you put the router in a vehicle. When the vehicle is on the road, you use a cellular, you reach the station, you want to connect to the central network or centralized network using Wi-Fi as an interface, as a layer 3 interface. Here, you have Gigi port with PoE. Why? Because what we can find in a vehicle, you can put video surveillance camera. You can put alarm. You can put IP phone on the police car, for example. So you do attach to the device. You have 30-watt PoE budget, and you can share that between different devices. Here, once again, SSD drive, specific GPS function. And the reason is, if you have a fleet of vehicle, you may want to track the vehicle. But sometimes, if your vehicle go under a tunnel, you may lose a GPS signal. So now what we can do, we can get information and do the analysis of the vehicle using the CAN bus. We know the speed of the vehicle, we know the direction of the vehicle, meaning we can continue to track where the vehicle is on the map. And that's the reason here you will find the CAN bus. So not only we can power the device using the battery of the vehicle, but at the same time we can retrieve the CAN bus information and do preventive maintenance for the vehicle as well, depending on the application. So clearly focus on transportation. Here are few use cases in Europe, mostly relevant for North America, where we have the full IP67 device. Once again, modular. You can see all the antenna. What we do with that, in the US, we have one technology called WISON. It's based on IEEE 154E, and that's something used by smart meter. So today, we have around 18 million smart meter running IPv6 deploy in North America. We have the previous platform, CGR 1240, and we upgraded the platform to iOS XE. PoE as well, you can connect camera, so it can be something you deploy as a smart city project where you may want to put cellular connectivity, digital camera, and by the way, we also introduce a LoRaWAN device gateway as a PIM factor. So the same kind of module you have seen for cellular, now we have a LoRaWAN gateway for that. So not yet for this platform, but for the 1101. And then we have the big brother, which is mostly for mission critical infrastructure where people are using fiber connection. This is the 8340. The 8340 is the first Cisco device where we are combining switching and routing on the same platform on the same hardware under iOS XE. You can take any platform inside Cisco. We do routing, running iOS XE. We do switching, doing iOS XE. But here, you have a single platform where we do routing with cellular interface, with Gigi port, and we do switching here with RG45 and combo port and SFP port. But everything managed as a single image of iOS XE. And in addition of that, we have a timing port for mission critical where we are running protocol like PTP, GPS, IRIC port, dual power supply, and serial port for legacy connection. So I would say everything in once. And by the way, same iOS XE, same capability for cyber vision agent, hosting application, unified threat defensing coming as well on the box, and autonomous or SD1. So what do we do with the platform? Here is a typical example of deployment. So when I say that the platform is not installed in an IT room, this is a typical shelter where you will find industrial router installed, or on a pole top. So completely different from the carpeted floor you are used to. Here, different kind of topology, but at the end, you have the edge, you connect your SCADA device or whatever you need, camera, end user, the worker, and we can use IPsec tunnel with FlexVPN technology to connect to the data center. So that's the typical. The goal is to focus on the use case and make sure that we bring connectivity in area where there was no connectivity before. And from there, this is an overview of where we can apply the solution. So it's utility market, transportation, EV charging, distribution automation, street cabinet, connected road. I mean, pick the one, manufacturing, port, crane, pick the one you want. We can deploy and we can help. Thank you for your time.